Hello, my name is Kyle and welcome to Frame by Frame, a series dedicated to analyzing the craft of filmmaking, or an ironic way to pay off my film school debt, whichever sounds sexier to you. Now, as we all know, films are told using a complex visual language, one that, when used correctly, can inspire a seemingly unimaginable depth of feeling, or sleep, depending on what you're watching. But the foundations of that language are shots, close-ups, low angles, extreme wides, even zollies, whatever the hell those are. And these building blocks are present in every movie you've ever seen. But where do these shots come from? Who attached meaning to them? And what were films like before this visual language existed? To learn this, we've got to find a way back to the birth of cinema, aka Wikipedia, to meet two of the men responsible for creating the most powerful artistic medium of our time. Meet two of the first filmmakers in history, Auguste and Louis Lumière, and I'm sure I mispronounced their names. By the early 1890s, these French brothers had grown their family business into the largest manufacturer of photographic plates in all of Europe. Not bad for two guys in their 20s who loved to cuddle. But on February 13th, 1895, they would change history forever. How? By patenting their masterwork, the cinematograph, the first true motion picture camera. The only device, in fact, capable of shooting, developing, and projecting motion pictures to a mass audience. And yeah, there were cameras before the cinematograph that could create motion pictures, but the Lumiere's technology enabled the cinema to become a shared experience, one with real commercial potential. And on March 19th, 1895, they would use the cinematograph to record arguably the most important motion picture ever made, called Sortie des Sunes Lumière, otherwise known as some French film I can't pronounce. English translation, workers leaving the Lumiere factory. That's right, you're watching the first people, the first moment in time ever shown to a mass audience. Thrilling. I mean, who could think people walking out of a factory could be that interesting? It's not. But where are the cuts? The angle changes. Well, there are none. Actually, most early films relied on what's known as a tableau shot, a single wide-angle setup that would cover the entire action of a film. That's right, imagine a movie covered in just one shot today. An insane idea, huh? Well, before continuity editing came along, that was the norm. That is until the 1910s, when the Americans sped up their film's cutting rates so much that this style was eventually, well, cut. An ideology that would eventually lead to such modern ADD masterpieces as YouTube Poop. Let's take a look. Wow, brilliant. But the Europeans weren't willing to do away with the aesthetic so quickly, which is why, even today, European films generally use less cuts than movies made in the States. But the tableau shot isn't dead in our cinema. Don't believe me? Well, just look at any emblematic wide shot in a Hollywood film today. They're just echoes of this technique, calling back to us from a time forgotten. But who standardized the grammar of cinema? It's debatable, but many credit D.W. Griffith with the feat. His nickname was the father of film, a title I assure you he earned. His resume including over 500 films, standardizing the shot design of American cinema, and creating Birth of a Nation, arguably one of the most influential and profitable films of all time. Keep in mind I said most profitable, not the most progressive. Note the blackface. Now, however impressive, there are misconceptions about D.W.'s legacy. He didn't create the close-up, and he didn't make the first feature film. But Griffith took pre-existing techniques, like the close-up, and used them in a systematic way, a way meticulously designed to evoke specific emotions in the viewer. Forget objectivity. Griffith wanted you in there with the action, and he brought you there with a powerfully subjective point of view. But that's not all. He also taught us how to convey information clearly, cleanly. Take his revolutionary use of the close-up here. This technique is referred to today as gaze-object-gaze. The subject, usually in close-up, looks at an object, cut to the object, then cut to the subject's reaction. Immediately, we get the relationship between the two. Soft focus with hair light to romanticize an actress? Griffith taught us that too. And D.W. didn't just tweak, he innovated. He's responsible for the first crane shot. That's when you attach a camera to a jib or a crane, typically to achieve a super high angle or move the camera up and away from the action. Griffith also pioneered the use of the vignette, a technique involving blacking out sections of the frame to highlight a portion of the image. Basically, it's a close-up without a close-up. Griffith even mounted cameras to cars to pull off tracking shots like these, a technique modern Hollywood has widely adopted. Don't believe me? Watch any Spielberg or Zemeckis film and you'll see the camera is always in motion.
Must go faster.
Griffith also colored entire frames to convey a particular tone or atmosphere. Beautiful, unless you're colorblind. Traditionally, high angles are used to make a subject appear small, vulnerable, like my editor. And low angles give the subject an appearance of dominance and strength. Thank Griffith for codifying those ideas too. Such shots existed before, sure, but Griffith is the man who infused them with meaning through repetition. In short, watch any film today and you'll see virtually all these techniques at work. And while features had already been created by 1906 in Australia, Griffith popularized the form with the astounding commercial success of Birth of a Nation. No film before had such a long runtime, with Birth's TRT clocking in at a staggering 3 hours and 10 minutes, or about half the life expectancy of most people at the time. So the next time you wonder why movies are 2 hours instead of 2 minutes, you might want to start with Griffith's seminal film. So, there you have it. 3 men who helped create and define the medium. Their legacies are bittersweet though, with the Lumiere brothers shifting their focus away from motion pictures, stating, "The cinema is an invention without any future." Equally tragic, Griffith was forced to resign from United Artists after a string of box office failures. And though he died on July 23, 1948, Griffith had already long outlived his fame. A hell of an end for a man Chaplin nicknamed the teacher of us all. But the genius of these men is present in every frame of film you've ever watched. A seemingly impossible accomplishment, unless you ask Griffith's great cameraman, Billy Bitzer. Bitzer wrote that whenever he judged a particular shot impossible, Griffith would tell him, "Billy, that's precisely why you have to do it." I'm Kyle, and this has been Frame by Frame. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching, and if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to this channel, Film Theory, for more fascinating content from the world of cinema. Also, let me know what you liked or anything you think should be tweaked in future episodes in the comments below. And if you'd like to check out some hilarious lowbrow humor from my gaming channel, make sure to click on the frame to the left. Or if you'd like to learn about the viability of having a real-world Doctor Who, make sure to click on the frame to the right. And until next time, this has been Frame by Frame.